Carl Cox rejected running a global consulting firm to stay with his family, nearly died from a burst appendix during COVID, and woke up deciding to launch a podcast. Now he ranks fourth best in strategic employment with a 3 to 6 month guest backlog by doing the opposite of what most podcasters teach. He stopped scripting interviews, quit trying to sell guests, and started giving relentlessly until connections like Sean Covey sought him out and guests began paying him to speak at his workshops. In this episode of Podcasting Secrets, Carl reveals why buying fake downloads was his biggest regret, the single question that transformed his guest quality overnight, and how rejecting 75% of applicants built a show people beg to join.
Welcome to the Podcasting Secrets Show, where successful creators share their best stories, secrets, and strategies. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, incurable creators, and welcome to this episode of Podcasting Secrets. Today, I'm joined by Carl Cox, a strategist, entrepreneur, and podcaster host who has dedicated his career to helping leaders turn vision into measurable success. He's the CEO of 40 Strategy. He scaled multiple companies from 2x to 7x growth, guiding executives to design and execute world-class strategic plans. With nearly 20,000 followers on LinkedIn and a thriving platform as the host of the Measure Success podcast, Carl amplifies the voices of entrepreneurs, innovators, and changemakers who are redefining what it means to succeed in business. Thanks for being with us today, Carl.
Yeah, Nathan, it's an honor to be on the show today.
Can you start off by sharing with us something that most people don't know about you?
Great question. Great question off the start there. What they probably don't know is I rejected an opportunity to run a global consulting firm so I could have the opportunity to be with my family and spend time with them and get to travel around the U.S. watching them play sports across the country.
And how do you feel about that decision now?
Many times throughout my career, I've said no. I've left millions of dollars on the table throughout my career to make sure I focus my time on my faith in my family. And one of the best decisions I ever made was rejecting that offer. I was literally on a kayak in Sydney, and Tom Wright, CEO of a Cascade Strategy, were kayaking in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And this beautiful waters, like this, like kind of cobalt blue, greenish type water, the sea kayaks going through, and I could barely hear him, but he's like, "Carl, how do you run my global consulting business? Create it and run it, and you travel around and you be the guy. You be the guy to run this." But to do that, I would have completely leave 3 of my 4 kids have had the opportunity to play college sports, and I would have had to not be able to see that, to experience that event. And so it was a really hard decision, but I politely declined. And ultimately, left that company and opened up my own firm. But that was a critical juncture in that decision making of where I am today.
Yeah. So tell us about your life before you became a podcaster, your career, your journey up to deciding you wanted to become a podcaster.
I never really thought I was going to be a podcaster. It was not in the planning. This was not my goal. This was not my plan. It wasn't a part of my life cycle. It wasn't a part of my things I have to do before I die, so to speak. But in September 2020, so the same year which I opened up 40 Strategy, I found myself with an NG tube down my throat and green junk coming out of my stomach because my appendix had burst halfway between Portland and Seattle. And it was a really eye-opening moment, right? So here you think you're fine. Everything's fine in my life. Pretty healthy, moved around, done things. And literally, I checked into a hotel at 2 p.m. in the middle of COVID in Centralia, Washington. If people are familiar with Centralia, Washington, between Portland and Seattle, nobody ever goes to a hotel in Centralia, Washington. You just don't do it. I mean, there's no reason to. It's a 3-hour drive. And I was on that same 3-hour drive. I was halfway there and I was in so much pain. I had to get in a hotel because I could not figure out what was going on. 2 hours later, I found myself, I wasn't sure I was going to wake up the next hour because between getting very ill, I won't go into details for this audience to what was going on, but eventually got to the place and said, "Yeah, your appendix is bad." And Well, anyways, woke up after the surgery and they said that was the worst burst appendix I've ever seen in my life. So I had a week in a hospital, middle of COVID, family couldn't see me. And I had this opportunity, right time, as I'm sitting there, can't move much. And every once in a while I'd have to walk the gurney around the plane. And nobody wanted to touch me because it was COVID, right?
That's a scary time to go in the hospital. My father-in-law went into the hospital that time and never came back out.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I mean, it was a scary time, right? And so I came out of it while I was in there. I said, I'm going to do three things. I'm going to run a marathon because I never ran a marathon before. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to start a podcast. And so that's how it came to fruition, was literally that, was like, I want to make sure life is short and I want to make sure I make a significant impact in life. And so that's how the ideation came to help create a podcast.
I love it. And so how has your podcast helped you as you created at the same time you created this 40 strategy consulting firm? How has that impacted the growth of your firm?
It's almost had an immeasurable effect. And so what I mean by that is, how do you measure the effect of having every week a speaker having the opportunity to come and speak with you where you get to learn about their expertise? A. B, you get to learn that language and help apply it to your clients. And C, you develop relationships that I never would have had. I never would have had these relationships with people throughout the world, throughout the US, where I now have them on my cell phone where I can text them at any time to ask a favor. We recently had our first workshop in just in November in Phoenix, Arizona. I asked, and because of the relationships I had developed in the podcast, I asked 9 people to speak and 8 said yes.
And these are pretty high level people too.
These are high level experts. I never would have been able to have that workshop if it wasn't for the podcast to create those connections to be at that event.
Yeah. Fabulous networking tool. Great way to build business connections that open so many doors. Okay. So you started a podcast. Can you tell us about your journey to start your first podcast and become a successful podcaster?
Well, I've always been a big believer is that I only know so much, and you're born with no knowledge, right? And so the fastest way to get there is to hire an expert. And so we hired a firm I'd highly recommend, Rise 25, a great podcasting firm. And they said, hey, we can help you out. And they taught me all the right things. And so my 0 to 1, meaning going from 0 to 1 podcast, was so smooth because they helped me with the intro, the outro, and they helped me with editing, and they helped with, help me ask questions, right? Just all the different parts around. They helped me create a script. They helped me understand what the purpose was. And one of their key things was, hey, learn to use podcasting as a tool to get yourself business. I was like, oh, that's a good idea, right? That's a great idea. Why not? If I'm going to spend this time and resources and energy and money into podcasting, why don't I try to make money off of it? So I followed the script. I followed everything that they said they would do. And I started the process. And I started reaching out to people that I thought would be potentially a good client. Now, of course, I just first connected with people that I knew. But eventually I was trying to get to a point where people could potentially be my client. I could barely get anybody on the show, Nathan. I was struggling. I was like begging people, please come on the show. Please come on the show. Please help me out. Please do these things. And the problem was my conversations, because my intent was to get business. I was forgetting this wasn't about me. The podcast wasn't about me. The podcast was about the guest, them wanting to share their knowledge, their wisdom, to share their gifts to the world. And so I had this big aha moment was, I need to stop selling and I need to start giving. And at that moment, I stopped scripting. I just started asking. Now don't get me wrong, I have 5 questions I ask every time. But most of the questions are questions of curiosity because I'm listening to learn. I'm curious about their stories. I'm curious about why they got there. I'm trying to ask the question behind the question behind the question. What is motivating them to be who they are and why they're doing?
Yeah.
And what was really interesting, and then one of the first things I did, Nathan, which was brilliant, and I can't remember if somebody told me this or I just kind of got the end. I think somebody shared with me, said, why don't you ask your guests for a referral for guest? And through that, I started getting some incredible people. The quality of the people just went up and up and up, because I just started asking them, do you know somebody who you think would be a great fit in this podcast? I had the opportunity. There's people on the back, like Sean Covey from the 4 Disciplines of Execution, had an opportunity to be on here. I mean, there have been some remarkable, we got Mike Garrison here. We've got, all these books, Trey Taylor, Legend. These are, and what's cool about this, these were people who ended up coming on my podcast and speaking. Be on a workshop and speaking beyond the podcast, right? Where we've become friends now, where they've been generous with their time, right? To do things. So that was the first thing. First, I started doing referrals, which was good. Then the second thing that I ended up doing, once again, I just went to I started giving swag.
Did you just send it to everybody after you recorded the episode?
We actually give every podcast guest swag.
Yeah. I did that with my first show. I haven't done it with this one, but I sure should.
They're so grateful, right? And you know what? What's great is they're wearing something that says Measureless Podcast, and now they're advertising the podcast, right?
Yeah. Especially those high-level guests that you're having on.
They're taking pictures and selfies with their stuff. They're telling me, Carl, I'm wearing around this Measureless Podcast sweatshirt all the time. That's super valuable. So there has just been, but the part that really, what's so fascinating, let's fast forward to where things have gotten to. Because we've continued to give and give and give and get more curious and be a better podcast host, right? And be genuinely interested in them and trying to help them out be successful with what they're trying to accomplish. It's that classic, you give and you get back, right? But you have to have the intent to give first. And so as a result of it, yes, we've gotten business from it. Absolutely. Just to clarify. We've gotten more business we got a ton of business, but it's not because we're asking. It's because they want to be with us. They want to be a part of our community. They trust us, right? Because we're not trying to take from them. We're trying to give to them. And so in response, they try to reciprocally give back, which is amazing. So that's been huge. And now we've gotten to this point, Nathan, where we don't have to ask anybody anymore. We don't have to even ask for referrals. We get 2 to 3 people a day asking to be on the podcast. And so we're getting to the point now where less than a quarter of people who even apply get to be on the show.
Okay, so how did you get there? How did you go from, you commented about having a hard time getting guests on the show at the beginning. How did you make this transformation to where you get 3 requests every day?
So there's a couple things that have made that possible. So first of all, you've got to be consistent. Every Tuesday morning, our podcast goes out. Every Tuesday morning. Goes on all the respective, social media channels, et cetera. So I'm a big fan of creating consistency, right, behind what you do. But because we've gotten to this point of getting where we've created real quality and real value behind it, and then you add to it something really important, Nathan, which is ChatGPT has made it easier for people to reach out and connect. By the way, little tip I learned from somebody who was a guest on the show. When somebody asks you, like, you can give them like your podcast application, because we have a podcast application to be on the show.
Yep.
I say, no, Google it. So we have people, I say, Google, don't give them the direct link. Ask them to Google your Measure Success podcast.
Oh, because then it helps you with your SEO. Oh, that's a really good idea.
Okay. So that was a brilliant, and that's been a part of it. So as a result, when people look up podcast, we're seeing, I have this problem. The most famous DJ in the world is named Carl Cox. It's a problem. And so I use Carl J. Cox as a result of that. But what's really cool is because we've created so much content over the last 3 years, we're now found on ChatGPT, equal to Carl Cox, the DJ, right? So when people are looking at who is a great podcast to be on and who's having good guests onto there and who's a good podcast host, over time, gratefully, our reputation has increased. And as a result of that, people literally are seeking us out like crazy. Like Nathan, I would have never dreamed when we first started this back in 2021 that we would get 3 requests to be on the show, especially after there was a point I wasn't sure we're going to be able to get anyone on. We typically have a 3 to 6 month backlog of guests. Sometimes we have even longer than that. It's incredible what's it turned into. So, so once again, that's why. So we only have 52 shows a year. We don't have 5,000 shows a year. We have only the right amount. So it's hard to get on, right? So we're oversubscribed. Yeah. We're not easy to get on.
So what do you do with all those people that apply that you can't accept?
We politely decline, politely say sorry, and we can say you apply again in a future period. We don't. One of the things, that missed opportunity when you say that out loud, Nathan, is, wow, there's some people there that we can help create some opportunities to still connect with them, if that makes sense, behind it. Now, once again, what's happened is we have podcast agencies are often reaching on behalf of the people, right? So sometimes it's direct from the guest, from the people who want to be guests, but often it's from podcast agencies, they're reaching out. But we've never paid a guest to be on the show ever.
Yeah, and you don't need to. As you build up that credibility, you get them coming to you like you're doing now. You talked about using ChatGPT to find people, to find guests, contact information. Am I remembering right? Was that what your ChatGPT question or comment was about?
No, it's kind of the other way around, is that because when people are searching for us, and because we've produced
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most valuable things, and why it's so important to be a podcast host if you have a business, is because you're creating so much content. And you want to not just deliver the content of the podcast out there, but you want to be on social media, putting snippets out on a consistent basis. Once again, for 4 years now, 5 years, going on 5 years, every week, there's multiple pieces of content that we're releasing. As a result of that, we are now searchable because we're creating so much content on a consistent basis.
And now that there's this huge transformation from Google to AI chat searches, you're now showing up in that as well.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What is the biggest mistake you have made as a podcaster, and what'd you learn from it?
I'm going to say something different. First of all, I think honestly, the biggest mistake was trying to sell too hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to go back to that, but it really was. It was the biggest mistake I made. But the biggest insight I had was to start giving and start supporting and start helping, right? And start giving. I keep on going back to that give, right? It's like Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about give. It's like jab, right hook, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning give, like soft thing, and then eventually give people an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. I'm going into that when we hosted this workshop, Nathan, I didn't have to pay most of these guests. Even they paid to come to speak, right? I mean, how cool is that? Where I had these experts coming and willing to come to this workshop, to come and speak and be there. That's pretty awesome.
Because of those relationships that you've built through the show.
That's right.
What is your greatest secret of success you've learned from your show?
I think it's really important to don't treat the podcast like a transaction. Nathan, you're another person. You're a real human being on the other side, right? Regardless of how
I'm actually AI, and I'm just fooling.
Yeah, you're actually an image. No, in genuine truth, right? What is super valuable, it's super important, is that they're truly just human beings on the other side, and they have cares, and they have family, and they have things that matter, that are important to them. And yes, they might be coming on your show because they're trying to sell something. But at the end of the day, people buy things from people they trust. And so when you could develop a relationship that is full of trust and full of caring and full of relationship, this is where these relationships start multiplying, right? And people want to be a part of your community. They want to be a part of your network. I'm flattered today. And once again, Nathan, I would have never, ever thought we'd have the 4th best strategic planning podcast. I had a dream of maybe making the top 100 someday, but to be nominated and voted as the fourth best, where we didn't have to do anything. We just showed up one day and we saw on social media that we were the fourth best ranked podcast. How cool is that, right? So I will say one thing, a mistake I did make, and actually this is something I will say I wish I didn't do, is and I'm guilty as charged. I had a firm out of India. They reached out to me. They said, Carl, we can make you famous. And they're like, hey, we're gonna help get you downloads, basically. I wish I never agreed to that.
Why? So I get those emails all the time. I've never done one of them.
It's just not
what's
real.
been the downside?
The downside is just it's not authentic. So there's a concept that's called vanity metrics in marketing. Don't get me wrong. If your goal is to be the most downloaded podcast authentically, just of note, you're not going to be the people who are inauthentically downloading podcasts. I won't say their names. The biggest names in the industry are buying fake downloads, guaranteed, to stay number one. I've seen the text from famous people saying, "I need more downloads on this." Okay, I've
seen the same thing from one of them recently. Yep.
So this is a legit secret stuff. I didn't know any better. It was relatively early on the podcast. I agreed to do it. I did it for a little while. It didn't change anything, and most of them were inauthentic downloads. So now I don't care about the vanity metrics. What I care about is the relationship with the podcast guest. That when I send them an email or I make a request or I give them a referral for business or vice versa, there's a genuine confidence in that relationship. So that's what I learned, and that's how I moved it away from it. I'm so glad we're doing things quote unquote authentically. But by the way, just to let you know, that's what it happens in the game. In the great game of podcast being the number one rated show based on downloads, very few of them are authentic downloads. All of them. I'm not saying 100% of them. I'm just saying a lot of them are purchased.
Today's episode of Podcasting Secrets is brought to you by Pod Allies, the done-for-you podcasting services solution. When I speak with CEOs about their podcast, one of the most common comments that I hear is that they know they need a podcast, but they don't have time. Have you ever wondered how some businesses find a way to still run their podcasts while juggling their crazy day-to-day operations? The secret might be simpler than you think. Let me introduce you to Pod Allies. This is a service that's changed the game for businesses in the podcasting world. Pod Allies is a done-for-you podcast production and marketing service. They understand that while many businesses understand the immense value podcasting can have for their business, finding time to produce, syndicate, promote, and monetize a show can be challenging. Pod Allies offers a dedicated team to handle virtually all aspects of your podcast production. From strategy and branding to audio and video editing and guest scheduling, they've got you covered. They even take care of creating blog posts, transcripts, and syndicating your content across multiple platforms. What sets Pod Allies apart is their use of PodUp, their proprietary podcasting software suite. This allows them to streamline the entire podcasting process, saving you time, effort, and a bunch of money. If you're ready to become a thought leader, connect with your audience, and grow your business through podcasting without all of the investment of time and cost of doing it yourself, Pod Allies might be the perfect solution for you. To learn more or to schedule a free consultation with a podcast expert, visit podallies.com. That's podallies.com. Now back to the show. Yeah. Do you think it's bad to buy advertising? What is okay and what is not okay?
Oh, I don't think it's wrong at all to buy advertising at all. I think that's your right. It's just, once again, what's your goal? Right? What's your goal? Is your goal to get a bunch of people listening that you aren't developing a relationship with? Or is your goal to get a relationship with the person who's actually on your show and you're talking with right now, right? In a real conversation, as opposed to this download that I'll probably never, ever hear. And I rarely don't. I mean, now what's to me, what I love, Nathan, is when I run into somebody I haven't talked in a while and they'd be like, Carl, that podcast you did with this guest, and that conversation was so good. Or I'll hear other people like, I listen to you all the time, Carl. I don't even know. Like, cause it's not, I can't read it. We don't have a really good community, like where people are posting things. That's like something we don't do well today. We'll do better in the future. But yeah, there's stuff like that where we can do way better, like way better. But I literally don't worry about it because I view it as vanity metrics.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So vanity metrics are bad. What strategies do you feel comfortable with that you would recommend for growing your podcast, other than you've talked about having great guests on the show and building relationships with them and providing great value on your episodes? Besides those strategies, what else would you recommend?
Already mentioned consistency. I think that's super important.
Maybe getting on other shows.
So that's not a bad thing to do. What's been interesting though for me, Nathan, I'll keep on going back again. I'm now being asked to be on more shows than ever because my podcast has gotten better.
Mm-hmm. And has that helped grow your reach and audience as you've gotten on more shows?
What I can say, because once again, we don't track the vanity metrics. What I can say is it's tracking people's interest, because I could tell with the amount of additional people that want me to be on their show. Once again, I don't know exactly, Nathan, how we connected, but like this is what's going on right now is people like yourself are asking me to be here. Now, once again, I recognize that people are wanting to be on their shows because they're wanting to sell stuff to me. So one of the things I don't do anymore, so this is something I don't do anymore, is one of the tricks of the trade, right, is to have the prep interview before the regular interview, right?
And I hate those. I wish I could get rid of all of those.
Thank you. So Nathan, I stopped doing them.
Yeah. So how do you do that? I've done it and then I feel bad. I feel guilty, because can you just say, I don't do prep interviews. I'm happy to show up for the interview, but I don't do prep interviews.
So I'm not going to for the sake of the audience, but if you look at my calendar right now, it's blocked out. It's not uncommon for me to have 8 to 12 meetings a day, and I'm full. So it's a genuine thing. I genuinely don't have time for a prep interview.
Yeah.
I used to do the prep interviews. I used to appreciate it initially, but then all of a sudden I got busier and I had more time and more business.
They're not needed.
It wasn't needed, and I found it to be a waste. And actually, Nathan, I found I lost some of my prep interviews into the guests. They didn't come to the next stage.
Yeah. And a lot of the ones that do the prep are the ones that are wanting to sell you something, it seems like.
You're right. You're exactly right. So once again, another reason why I was okay with giving them up, right? But I had some the other day, and they were said, "Hey, Carl, you want to do the podcast?" But we have a prep interview, and anyways, with their team, I was like, they were like, "Hey, no, you need to do the prep." And I said, unfortunately I can't, I don't have time to do this. And so it was interesting. I got onto the actual show, the prep, right? The early part, the pre-part before we record. So I think everyone knows this is a podcast recorder, but usually have a short conversation at a minimum. Right. And so that's what I do my prep is I just have a brief conversation with them ahead of time. And, he's on the show and he's like, yeah, so there must've been a mix up. I don't know how you got on without a prep interview. And I said, I was just genuine. I said, unfortunately, just want to let you know, I told your team this ahead of time. I don't have time to be on a prep interview with you. So if you don't want me to be on the show, I'm okay of leaving right now, because it's okay. And it's genuine, not authentic. And,
yeah.
And he was cool. He was like, oh, okay, I get it. I didn't experience this, Nathan, until once again, I had a few other people that I was taking advantage of their time doing the prep interview. And I didn't realize, when people are in multi-million-dollar businesses, let's just do simple math here. And Nathan, like, this is the thing I know that people don't understand enough. Let's assume somebody's in a $1 million business. They have to make $500 an hour to get $1 million, $5 an hour, 2,000 hours a year. So full time to make that $1 million. Now they might obviously be directly doing the work, but their time is worth $500 an hour. Every exponential point beyond that, it's that much more money per hour. So why do I think that I have the business to like take away $500 from that person if it's not creating value for them, right?
Yeah.
Right. The prep
especially
interview
if it's unnecessary.
Yes. It's not creating any value for them. So I more suggest have a great thing, and then if you need to, if there's value, have a follow-up if necessary, because they find value in it, right? But man, we have to be more thoughtful of the guest. I keep going to go back to, you have to be more thoughtful of the guest, even if you're trying to sell. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. I genuinely mean that, Nathan. There's nothing wrong with that. I just found for myself, it didn't work as well. I found the indirect sales value and the relationships value has given me way more referrals than I ever anticipated.
Yeah, I think if it probably depends on the stage you're at with your podcast. If you're in an early stage and you don't have a lot of traffic and you're reaching out to these other podcasts trying to get on, you might have to do the pre-calls, right? Or you just won't get on.
Yeah.
But if you're in a spot where they're reaching out to you and you're an established, very successful podcaster, you can probably say, I'm not doing the pre-call, and they probably will still have you on.
If you have enough value, you'll be let on. And that's the part, like the inverse, where I feel a little bit bad of, we have to go through talk about tough things we have to do. We do look at people's social media presence. I mean, this is something we do, Nathan. We don't let typically people on our show if they either have to be really, really good at what they do, but usually they have to have at least a better than average social media presence, if not to exceptional, right? Because once again, I want it worth everybody's time, right? To do things. And if somebody has 3 Facebook followers,
that's right,
it's a problem.
You want someone that's going to help grow your show.
Yeah.
So that's one of your growth strategies, is inviting guests on the show who, as they promote the episodes, it can help grow your show.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that is definitely what we fairly do. When in our application process, when people fill out the forms, we ask them, why you want to be on, what are you trying to do? But we ask them, how many LinkedIn followers do you have? How many Facebook followers do you have? How many Instagram followers do you have, et cetera, et cetera. And we even go a step further. We'll actually look how real they are. Are people actually communicating or commenting on their stuff that they have? Once again, we will, with somebody's exceptional, we'll put them on even if they don't have a great. But it's one of our thresholds of evaluating people coming on our show.
If you had to summarize the single greatest value that you have received from being a podcaster, what would that be?
It's a really good question. I know I mentioned giving multiple times. What's been unanticipated is people view me differently because I'm a podcast host. It's the same thing of being an author. There's just some things that have happened that I never anticipated happening, where people view me differently now. They view me with a different expertise. They view me, and that's a weird thing to say. It's just, a long time ago, let me do this explanation here for a minute, because I think it's valuable. A long time ago, I remember when I was a controller, an accounting manager for a company, and I would say the same joke, and nobody laughed. And then I became a controller and somebody smiled. And then I became a CFO and I started getting some giggles from the same joke. And then I became a CEO and the same different group of people saying the same joke started laughing out loud. Same joke. So why is that relevant? When you have perceived higher status, people will treat you and talk to you differently and provide you different opportunities. I'm the same person that I was when I was an accounting manager and a staff accountant for, publicly traded company many years ago. But the perception of who I am is significantly different. And what that has done is that's opened doors for me. And so that's one of those I'm grateful for, I think, right things to say. This isn't something, it's, as you can see here, I'm saying this out of humility. I'm not saying this out of bragging. I'm saying, like, when I was at an event, a not-for-profit event, and somebody said, oh, here's Carl, here's the author and podcast host. We want him to sit at this certain table. Once again, this is not about my ego, but it was so grateful, right, to have that, because it opened doors, and I had the opportunity to be next to this amazing founder and CEO of this amazing not-for-profit organization, and I got to sit at their table. That's what the podcast has done. That's what the book has done. It opened doors where I never anticipated them opening. And for that, I'm like just so grateful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carl. Podcasts definitely open a lot of doors. If our audience has enjoyed this, like I have, and they want to learn more about you and your show and your business, your consulting firm, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Yeah, the easy button is actually, I'm going to do a couple different things here, Nathan,
Yeah, please.
So first of all, our website is 40strategy.com, 40strategy.com. We also have, I'm also a CPA. You may have noticed I said some number of things I have positions. So we also have an accounting firm called 40 Accounting. We primarily service small business, helping them to grow. And so we've been very fortunate with that over the years. And so that's the two core things we do from a business perspective. But I'm going to give people an offer on your show that I will follow through with. If people are interested, here's my email, direct email, carljcox at 40strategy.com, CARLJCOX at 40strategy.com. If they want a free book of Lost at CEO, I will send them one. So now you could buy on your own and you don't want to call me, that's fine. But if you send me an email and say you heard me on the Podcasting Secrets show, I'll give your guest a free book.
That is very kind of you. Thanks for doing that. And they can do that by emailing you at carljcox@40strategy.com.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. If they want to watch or listen to your podcast, what's the best way to do that?
We're on every major platform. So just go and Google, if you may. And once again, Measure Success Podcast, you will find it on all the major platforms, and feel free to download. We encourage you to share, quote. And once again, we always love to hear feedback from our guests, or people who are listening to the show, I should say. And so if you have any comments, or if you have anybody you recommend to be on the show, just let us know.
Sounds great. Thanks for being with us today and for adding so much value for our audience.
Thank you, Nathan. It's been a pleasure.
And here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, stop selling and start giving first. Trying to transact with guests kills relationships before they begin. Number 2, ask every guest for referrals to other potential guests. Quality compounds when current guests recommend future ones. Number 3, send swag to every guest after recording. They wear it, advertise your show, and appreciate the gesture. Number 4, skip prep interviews when you have established value. Respect your time and theirs by diving straight into the recording. Number 5, be consistent with your publishing schedule. Release episodes the same day every week to build audience expectations. Number 6, vet guests by social media presence and engagement levels. Better than average following ensures mutual promotion value. Number 7, vanity metrics are worthless. Focus on authentic relationships over download numbers bought from overseas firms. Number 8, make people Google your show instead of sending direct links. It improves SEO ranking over time. Number 9, podcasting changes perception and opens doors that credentials alone cannot. Status shifts how people treat you. And finally, number 10, give value through having genuine curiosity about guests. Ask questions behind the questions to uncover deeper motivations and stories. If you're looking for a great all-in-one podcasting platform with more than 60 different integrated tools, check out podup.com, where you can get a free 30-day license of the Podup platform. And if you know you need a podcast but you don't have time, check out podallies.com, where you can get a free podcast strategy call, and we can help you develop your podcast growth and monetization plan absolutely free. Thanks for joining us for the episode. I wish you success as you turn your passion into profit through podcast monetization.